The human medical wing was not meant to exist on an alien ship, but after the truce between the Varellan Empire and Earth, a shared vessel was created for joint missions. That truce didn't last long. 3 days ago, the Joint Command Center lost contact with the diplomatic fleet. And now inside a quiet white room, a single human soldier named Ethan sat awake, recovering from an injury during a surprise attack on an outpost. He didn't remember much from the fight, only that he had been pulled into a shuttle. Then darkness fell. When he opened his eyes the first time, she was there. Green skin, long white braids, soft alien features that looked almost too kind for her. A battlefield nurse. She looked startled when he tried to speak. "Don't move," she had whispered, her voice smooth but tense. "You're safe, but you don't belong here." At the time, it made no sense to him. Now fully conscious and alone in the same bed, the fear crept back. Why did her words sound more like a warning than comfort? The walls of the medbay were smooth and pulsing with faint blue lines typical of Varellan tech. No other humans were in sight. The lights hummed softly above him. He tried to sit up, but pain fired through his shoulder. A healing gel patch covered his wound, but something felt strange. It wasn't just the pain. It was something deeper. Like his muscles had a new weight in them. The door hissed open, and she stepped in. Same alien nurse, but her eyes now darted side to side like someone followed her. "You're not supposed to be awake yet," she said, almost accusing. Her hands clutched a metal vial. She walked closer, avoiding his gaze, and inserted the vial into the wall unit. A sharp hiss followed. "Time for your second dose," she said quickly. Without waiting for his reply, Ethan flinched as the needle touched his arm. The liquid felt hot, like fire under his skin. She pulled back, watching closely, lips parted like she was about to explain, but she didn't. Instead, she reached behind her and pressed a button near the door. The lock clicked. Red light blinked across the panel. Then, she leaned closer, her green skin glowing under the medlights. "That was the wrong injection," she whispered. "You weren't supposed to get it. But now you have to keep it secret." He froze. His mind spun with questions. Was it poison? Was it some kind of alien serum? Why would she inject him with something wrong and then lock the door? The nurse didn't seem cruel. In fact, her hands trembled. "Why?" he asked. "What was in it?" She stepped back like the answer was heavy. "Something they would kill me for. Something they would kill you for. But it might save you too." Suddenly, alarms echoed in the distance. She looked toward the sealed door. "You were part of the strike team, weren't you?" she asked. The humans weren't supposed to be there. The Empire was going to wipe the site clean. No survivors. You weren't meant to return. Her words made Ethan's stomach twist. He had heard whispers about the Varellans planning something, but not this. Not betrayal. Not murder. She knelt beside his bed. "The injection you received wasn't medical. It was an experimental enhancement. Forbiddens. But it might help you survive what's coming. I used it because I couldn't let you die like the others." Her voice cracked at the end. She looked scared. Not just of being caught, but of what she had done. Ethan reached for the edge of the bed and sat up slowly. His body felt stronger. Heavier, like something new was waking up inside his bones. "What's coming?" he asked, voice low. The nurse looked at him like he was the only one left who could change anything. "A war they already started. You just don't know it yet." The sound of the alarm faded behind the sealed door as Ethan steadied himself beside the medbed. His legs felt stiff, like his muscles didn't belong to him. The nurse stood frozen, her hand still near the button that had locked them in. Her face showed panic but not guilt. Whatever she injected into him, it wasn't a mistake. It was a choice she made to protect him. She finally moved, stepping toward the console and typing fast with shaky fingers. "They'll scan the wing soon," she said. We need to leave before they reach this level. Ethan looked at the walls, at the alien text flashing red warnings, and then back at the woman who had just broken every rule of her people to keep him alive. "What's your name?" he asked. Her eyes flicked to him. "Valari." Valari handed him a strange black uniform. It shimmered slightly, adjusting size to his form. "Put this on. It will make you look like medical staff. At least long enough to pass the inner halls." Ethan struggled with the tight suit, but the fabric quickly sealed around his limbs. The shoulders still ached, but something in him pulsed. Stronger now, his balance returned faster than expected. His vision sharpened. "That drug," he said. "What did it do to me?" "It activates dormant gene channels. Your kind wasn't meant to receive it, but the results are unknown. Your body is changing already. If they find out, they'll erase you before the process finishes." Valari's voice was no longer afraid. It was steady, full of urgency. "Come on, human. If you want to live, follow me." She pulled the door panel and typed a new override. The lock slid open with a soft mechanical sigh. The hallway outside buzzed with movement. 2 alien nurses passed by with carts, but they didn't stop or look. Valari led Ethan through a narrow corridor lit by bright white strips along the ceiling. The ship's hum felt louder here, like a giant beast breathing in its sleep. They turned twice then, paused at a lift tube. She held up her hand, scanned the walls, and whispered, "Security drone above. Move only when I say go." Ethan nodded and held his breath. They slipped through the lift doors and descended 1 level. This deck felt older. Rust showed on the waivu edges of the silver walls. The air smelled of machine oil and burning filters. Valari kept her pace fast. "We're near the storage bays. They won't expect us here." Ethan followed, heart pounding, wondering how long before someone noticed the med bay was accessed during a lockdown. Every step now felt like borrowed time. Finally, she stopped beside a sealed hatch marked with alien symbols. She waved her hand. Across the pad, it flashed green. Inside was a narrow chamber with several black crates and a large screen blinking blue. She motioned him inside and shut the door behind them. "We can rest here for a moment. This room is off-grid." "They don't track old emergency units." Ethan leaned against the wall, breathing hard, his skin burning hotter with each breath. Valari pulled out a small scanning device and ran it over his chest and arms. "Your blood is adapting. Faster than I expected. That's good. But it also means the transformation is starting. You'll feel more changes soon. Not just strength. Your reflexes, your memory, even your senses. Everything will get sharper, but it will hurt." Ethan clenched his jaw. Why would the Varellans make something like this and hide it? She looked him in the eye, and for a moment, her fear returned, because it wasn't made for us. It was made using forbidden human samples. From before Earth joined the talks, the Council believed humans were too unstable to be enhanced. But someone in the Empire didn't agree. They kept experimenting in secret. I only found the records 2 days ago. I thought it was madness. Until I saw what happened to you. Ethan sat down on a crate, feeling sweat on his neck despite the cold air. His hands flexed without him thinking. His mind raced, thoughts connecting faster than usual. So they were planning to use this? Or destroy it? Valari shook her head. Neither. They were going to bury it, but the war changed that. Now they might unleash it. On their own, on your people. Or worse, use it as a weapon and blame Earth for the fallout. For a moment, the two just sat in silence, the hum of the ship pressing against the thin walls. Ethan leaned forward and whispered, "So what do we do?" Valari turned to the console and activated the screen. A map of the ship appeared. Her finger pointed to a section marked in red. "We go here. Deep research. Hold, that's where the other vials are." If they reach them, this war will never end. And if we get there first, we might have a chance to stop it. Ethan stood up from the crate and walked toward the glowing screen that displayed the deep research hold. His eyes narrowed as he memorized the path ahead. Every part of the ship past that point was marked in red. Danger zones, lockdown zones, or restricted entry. Velari tapped her fingers nervously on the console, watching him in silence. She knew how risky this next step was. The vials are kept in a vault at the bottom of the hold, she said, pointing to a blinking dot on the screen. They're cryo-sealed, and only high-ranking scientists are allowed access. We can't just walk in, but I know a back route. Maintenance tunnels that connect to the waste filtration systems. Smells terrible, but no one checks them. Ethan nodded slowly, rubbing his arm again. The warmth inside his veins hadn't faded. Something was shifting within him. His hearing picked up faint buzzes and clicks in the walls. His sight sharpened. Even the cold metal floor felt more real beneath his bare feet. It scared him, but it also made him alert. Alive, Velari handed him a small breathing mask and opened a side hatch near the rear wall. A gust of sour air rushed in. She didn't flinch, but Ethan covered his nose. They dropped into a narrow tunnel filled with steam and faint yellow light. The floor was slippery, but Velari moved with trained ease, her boots finding every step without hesitation. Ethan followed closely, crouched low, trying not to slip. The air burned his lungs slightly, but the mask helped. Pipes rattled above them. Distant machinery roared like thunder far below the hull. It felt like they were crawling inside the belly of a beast. After 10 minutes of tight turns, they reached a junction where 3 tunnels split in different directions. Velari paused, scanning the wall for markings. "This way," she said, pointing left. "The next part is tighter, but it brings us behind the primary lab wall." As they entered the side path, the space shrank until Ethan's shoulders brushed both sides. Sweat dripped from his forehead. "You've done this before?" he asked. Velari answered without turning. "Once, during my medical training. I wasn't supposed to. But I always wanted to know what they were hiding under the labs. That's how I found the records. That's how I learned the truth about the vials. And now they've begun using them." Her voice lowered. "You're not the first human to receive the serum. But you're the first to survive it." Ethan stopped crawling. "What do you mean?" Velari turned around, her face inches from his. There were others, prisoners, test subjects. None of them lasted past the 3rd day. Organ failure, neural collapse. But you're adapting. That means your DNA was already compatible. That changes everything. Ethan swallowed hard. "Why me?" Velari shook her head. "That's what we need to find out." They kept moving, and soon the tunnel opened into a grated floor above a large chamber. Below, dozens of tall glass tanks filled with glowing liquid stood in neat rows. Armed Virellan guards walked between them, while technicians in silver robes checked data screens. Ethan and Velari stayed low behind a vent grill, barely breathing. "That's it," she whispered. "That's the core vault." Suddenly, footsteps echoed above them. A hatch slammed open at the far end of the tunnel. Voices shouted in the Virellan language. Velari's face went pale. "They found our path. We have to move now." She pried open the vent and dropped down into the support beams. Ethan followed without question. His body reacted faster than before, his grip stronger, landing quieter. The serum was no longer just changing him, it was guiding him. They moved from beam to beam, staying above the guard's line of sight. Velari led him toward a side wall where a hidden door blinked faint green. She reached into her belt and pulled a stolen access chip, slotting it into the panel. The wall hissed open, revealing a narrow maintenance shaft. They slipped in, closed it behind them, safe for the moment. But the noise outside was growing louder. Inside the shaft, Ethan leaned back against the metal and let out a slow breath. Valari scanned him again. Your pulse is faster, but steady. No cellular rupture. That's a good sign. If your system accepts the next phase, you might become something even the Council feared. Ethan stared at her, not with fear, but with determination. Then we stopped them. Together, Valari nodded and brought up a map on her wrist device. There's a core server in the vault's lower level. If we reach it, we can extract all files, formulas, test logs, command orders. If we leak it to both human and Varellan leadership, this secret dies in the light. Ethan looked at the display. Let's make sure it does. Before they find us first. Asterisk, the hidden shaft led them deeper into the belly of the research hold. Past thick coils of wire and humming power conduits. The walls narrowed until Ethan had to crouch to continue. Valari moved confidently, as if she had memorized every inch of this forgotten route. Behind them, the sound of boots and clanging. Doors echoed through the facility. Their window was closing fast. The tunnel opened into a crawlspace above a wide room filled with glowing monitors. Below, several scientists monitored security feeds and chemical data. None looked up. Valari motioned for Ethan to stay low. This is the observation level, she whispered. If we reach that corner ladder, it'll take us down to the vaults. Command terminal. Ethan studied the distance and nodded slowly. I can make that jump. Valari's eyes widened. That's too far, you'll be seen. But Ethan had already moved. With a quick breath, he leapt across the metal beams and landed softly behind a support pillar. Even Valari looked stunned. He didn't just jump, he glided for a moment, then stuck the landing like his body already knew what to do. The serum was doing more than just making him stronger. It was teaching him. She followed using the safer path, climbing across narrow pipes and silent catwalks. Together, they reached the corner and slipped through a hidden hatch behind a coolant duct. The noise of the observation room faded. Now, they stood inside a chamber dimly lit by blue tubes and red warning lights. A single console sat in the center, surrounded by sealed crates marked with alien glyphs. Ethan walked straight to the console. Let's get the files. Valari nodded and activated her wrist link, syncing it to the terminal. Lines of code appeared in an alien script, flowing across the screen faster than Ethan could follow. I'm downloading everything serum. Formulas, test data, genetic logs. It'll take 60 seconds. Ethan turned toward the door. Then we hold here for 60 seconds. As he stood watch, he heard voices through the wall. A patrol was sweeping the floor above. Valari's fingers moved fast, her eyes locked on the data feed. They enhanced more than humans, she said. There are logs about other species' failed tests, destroyed labs. This project was bigger than I thought. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a plan to create something the Council couldn't control. Ethan tightened his fists. His heartbeat thudded in his ears, but it no longer felt like fear. It was power steady, focused, cold. The room seemed sharper. He could hear the humming patterns in the machines, the rhythm of footsteps far away, even the low static from the console's screen. It was like his brain had learned how to listen beyond sound. Valari's wrist beeped. Download complete. She disconnected the link and sealed the drive into a hidden pouch on her hip. Now we move to the cryolocker. If we destroy the remaining vials, no one else can be turned into this. Ethan looked at her. Are you sure it should be destroyed? What if it could save lives? She paused for a moment before answering. Only if it's used freely. Not secretly. They moved out through the rear hatch, entering a narrow stairwell. As they descended, the lights above flickered. The emergency sirens had shifted to a quiet tone, meaning the upper floors had gone into full lockdown. We triggered something, Valari said. They know someone accessed the records. They'll block the vault next. Ethan didn't hesitate. Then we break in first. They reached the final level. A large circular door stood before them, sealed tight with 5 glowing locks. Beside it was a retinal scanner and a set of handprint pads. This wasn't meant for one person to open, Valari said. It needs at least 3 senior scientists. Ethan stepped forward and placed his palm on one of the pads. The panel lit up. Then the retinal scanner activated. The light scanned his eyes and beeped. Valari gasped. "It's accepting your access. That's not possible." Ethan didn't move. The door began to unlock. 1 lock, then 2. Then 3. The final clicks echoed across the chamber. The door slid open slowly, revealing a cold room filled with glowing cylinders, each one labeled, each one sealed. Inside them, the blue serum pulsed with quiet energy. They entered the chamber cautiously. Ethan walked between the rows of vials, feeling the air grow colder. He paused in front of one marked Subject Designation, Human Variant 17A. The words made him shiver. "This was me," he said. "They were watching long before I arrived." Valari looked at him, her face pale. "Then you were part of their plan all along." The chamber felt colder than any room they had entered before. The walls were lined with glowing tubes that held swirling blue liquid. Ethan stared at the cylinder labeled with his designation. The number confirmed his suspicion. He was not a mistake, he was a test. Every injury, every scan, every procedure since his arrival was recorded and used for something larger than he imagined. Valari walked slowly past the vials. Each one held something terrifying. Some were labeled with species, names. Others were only marked with numbers. She whispered, "This is not a lab. It's a graveyard of failed evolution." Ethan's jaw tightened as he stopped in front of another vial. Inside floated something that resembled a human child, but twisted. Its eyes were open, unblinking. "How long has this been going on?" he asked. Valari touched the control panel next to the chamber and brought up the project log. 12 years, she said. "Long before your people entered peace talks. They used rogue scientists from both sides. The council denied knowing anything. But the signatures on these authorizations include high-ranking names. Even the one who led Earth's science delegation is on here." Ethan backed away from the display. His heart thudded in his chest. The betrayal wasn't just alien, it was human too. His kind had a hand in this darkness. He had trained to protect lives, not become an experiment. The serum in his body now felt like poison, but also like power. "We destroy it all," he said. "Every vial, every file, everything." Valari nodded and pulled out a thermal charge from her pouch. "This will ignite the entire vault. Once it's armed, we'll have 3 minutes to get clear." Ethan helped her plant the device near the central console. As he moved, his fingers brushed another panel. A soft beep sounded, the room's light dimmed. A hidden compartment opened on the far wall. Inside was a cryopod with a figure sealed. Inside, he stepped forward carefully. The cryopod was labeled in both alien and English, Prototype Host Phase 2. Inside was a woman, human in appearance. But something about her skin shimmered faintly. Her eyes were closed. Wires fed into her arms and neck. She didn't look dead, she looked paused, suspended in perfect stillness. "Who is she?" Ethan asked. Valari scanned the data. "She's not a test subject. She's a hybrid. Engineered. From your DNA. According to the file, she was meant to replace the failures. She was designed for combat, diplomacy, endurance, everything. But she's never been activated. This file calls her the final solution." Ethan stared at her face. She looked peaceful. Almost too peaceful for someone made for war. He reached for the panel. "Can we wake her?" Valari grabbed his wrist. "If you do, you won't be able to stop the transformation. She might not understand who she is or what she's meant to do." Ethan looked back at the sleeping figure. She deserves a choice, just like I deserved one. If we leave her here, they'll use her the moment we're gone. Valari hesitated, then nodded slowly. Then we wake her, but not until the charges are set. They placed the remaining explosives across the vault, near the largest racks of vials and files. As Valari armed a last timer, Ethan returned to the pod. He pressed the release. The glass slid open with a hiss. The girl's chest rose slowly. Her eyes blinked open bright silver, scanning the room in confusion. She sat up quickly. Her voice was soft but firm. "Where am I?" Ethan stepped closer. "You're safe, for now. But you're not a weapon. You're a person. My name's Ethan. I think you and I were built from the same lie." She stared at him, then at her own hands. "I remember dreams, voices, pain, but I don't remember being alive." Valari stepped forward. "Then this is your first moment of freedom." Suddenly, an alarm wailed overhead. A red light spun above the vault door. "They found us," Valari said. "We have 2 minutes." Ethan helped the hybrid girl to her feet. Her legs shook at first, but she stood firm. "What's your name?" he asked. She blinked, then answered slowly. "They called me Kayla, but I never accepted it." Ethan smiled. "Then choose your own when this is over." The three of them ran from the vault, sprinting down the shaft as the timer counted down. Guards shouted in the distance. The lights flickered. Ethan felt his muscles surge again, faster now, stronger. The serum was working hard, pushing his body toward its new form, but all he cared about was keeping the others safe. They had one chance to end this nightmare. The corridor shook behind them as the first explosion hit the vault. A wave of pressure roared through the maintenance tunnel. Ethan pushed Kayla forward while Valari guided them through the flickering lights. Smoke curled through the vents. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Every second felt like the last, but none of them stopped running. Alarms screamed through the ship, and red security shutters began slamming down. Valari reached a wall panel and bypassed it with her wrist chip. The door opened just enough for them to squeeze through. "This way leads to the escape hangar," she said. "If we make it there, I can override the launch controls." Ethan looked behind. The fire was chasing them. Kayla moved like she had trained for this her whole life. Her bare feet hit the floor without sound. Her movements were smooth, instinctual. She didn't speak much, but every glance she gave Ethan told him that she understood her purpose was now her choice. Whatever she was created for no longer mattered. She was free to decide what came next. They reached the access ladder and climbed quickly to the level above. The noise below was replaced by the roar of military boots closing in. Varellan guards, armed and furious, were sweeping the ship. Valari opened a side hatch, and they ducked into a dark hallway. "We're almost there," she said. "But they'll shoot on sight now, no warnings, no trials." As they reached the final corridor, the lights dimmed. The emergency power systems were failing. Ethan's eyes adjusted instantly. The serum's effects had grown stronger. He could see heat signatures, hear faint whispers through the walls, and feel the motion of air shifting ahead of him. "3 guards around the corner," he whispered. "1 on the right, 2 left." Valari stared. "You can see them?" Ethan nodded. "I can see everything." He stepped forward, silent as shadow, and moved like water between the walls. The first guard didn't even react before Ethan disarmed him and dropped him gently. The second raised his weapon, but Kayla was already there, striking with quiet precision. The last one turned to run, but Valari stunned him from behind. The path to the hangar was clear. Valari typed rapidly into the control terminal beside the bay door. "It's locked remotely. I need a second." Ethan stood guard while Kayla scanned the parked ships inside. "This one," she said. "It's fast and small, 2 seats, 1 pod extension. Enough for all 3. Ethan gave a tight nod. "Start it." We're leaving in under a minute. The door groaned open just as another alarm sounded. A voice echoed through the speakers in Varellan tongue. Valari translated quickly. They're sealing off the hangar. We're marked as fugitives. Hi. Alert. Ethan led the way into the ship. Kayla jumped into the pilot's seat without hesitation. I remember how to fly, she said. I just don't remember who taught me. Valari dropped into the side panel and rerouted the launch code. Manual override is ready. I'll blast the clamps. Hold tight. Ethan watched as Kayla's hands moved across the controls, powering up the thrusters. Her face was calm. Her silver eyes glowed. She looked nothing like a weapon now. She looked like someone who had finally taken her first breath. The doors began to shut. Valari shouted, "Now!" Kayla slammed the ignition. The ship roared forward. As fire burst from the landing struts, metal scraped the hull as the hatch slammed shut behind them. They were airborne, free of the ship. Ethan turned to see the Varellan cruiser shrinking behind them, flames licking its sides as the vault's destruction spread from level to level. Course? Kayla asked. Ethan looked at Valari. Earth? Valari shook her head. No, if we go to Earth now, they'll use you as proof that humanity violated genetic laws. We need to go off-grid. There's a resistance archive near the Shadow Moons. We can upload the files there. Let the truth go everywhere at once, Ethan agreed. Broadcast the truth, not revenge. Let every species see what was hidden. Kayla nodded silently, then set the coordinates. The ship vanished into deep space, away from the chaos they left behind. No more cages, no more labs. Just stars ahead and fire in their past. And for the first time since waking in the medbay, Ethan allowed himself to hope, but as he leaned back, he felt something pulse in his chest. A new wave of heat spread through his limbs. Valari noticed and scanned him quickly. It's happening again, she whispered. The serum isn't done. Ethan looked at his hands. The veins shimmered faintly. His strength was growing. But so was something else. Kayla looked back from the controls, her voice calm. It's not just him, I feel it too. Valari checked her readings again. Her eyes widened. Your signatures are syncing. That's not possible. Ethan stared. At Kayla, she stared back. Whatever the serum had done, it had connected them in a way even the scientists hadn't expected. The ship drifted through deep space as the stars outside stretched like silver trails. Inside, Ethan sat quietly, staring at his hands. The glow beneath his skin had faded, but the heat within remained. Kayla sat in the pilot's seat, her expression unreadable. Valari watched them both, her scanner still blinking with strange results. Something had changed during the escape, something beyond the serum's original design. Valari finally broke the silence. Your readings are merging. Pulse, cell energy, even brain patterns. It's like your bodies are syncing to the same rhythm. Ethan looked at Kayla. She didn't look surprised. I felt it when the vault exploded, she said. Like something inside me connected to him, not just physically. Something deeper, Valari nodded. The serum was meant to enhance a single subject. It wasn't built for two. But you both received separate versions, and now they're stabilizing each other. That shouldn't be possible unless the DNA was linked. Ethan stood up, heart pounding. What if it is linked? What if I wasn't just the test subject? What if I was the source? Kayla turned toward him. That would explain why I remember parts of your memories. Dreams I never lived. Voices I never heard. They weren't mine. They were yours. Ethan backed away slightly, his breath unsteady. Valari stared at the monitor, the data confirming their theory. You were never meant to be a soldier. She said, you were the blueprint. The ship entered orbit around a small moon, blanketed in gray mist. Beneath the surface was the Resistance Archive, an old satellite base no longer listed on official maps. Valari guided the ship into the hangar, No guards greeted them, only silence. Ethan stepped out first, his eyes scanning every shadow. "Feels too quiet," he said. "Are we sure the archive is still active?" Kayla followed closely behind. Her movements were graceful but alert. "I can hear machinery," she said. "Old turbines. Still working. This place has power." Valari approached a console near the bay entrance and entered a long override code. Lights flickered on across the corridor. The hallway opened with a low hiss, revealing rows of old terminals and storage vaults stacked with data cores. Inside the command room, dust clung to every surface. Ethan moved to the central console and placed the stolen data chip into the slot. Valari activated the uplink. "If this works," she said, "the files will spread to every neutral system. The truth will go to worlds that don't answer to the Council." Ethan crossed his arms. "That's all I want. Let them see what was done in secret." The screen flashed green. The upload had begun. File by file, the evidence was copied and broadcast through secure relays. Names, experiments, human trials, and Council approvals. Every hidden truth was now leaving the dark. Kayla stood beside Ethan, her expression calm. "It's strange," she whispered. "I was created to follow orders. Now I feel nothing but free." Valari stepped back from the console. "It's done. The truth is out. We've burned the lie to the ground." Ethan gave her a quiet nod, but the moment didn't last. A warning flashed across the screen. A transmission was coming through. Not from space, but from inside the archive. "We're not alone," Valari said. "Someone else is here." Before they could respond, the door behind them opened. 3 figures stepped inside. They wore cloaks marked with the old resistance symbol, but their weapons were drawn. The leader, a tall female with deep red skin, lowered her hood. "We saw the upload," she said. "We've been waiting for someone to expose the vaults. We just didn't expect it to be one of them." Her eyes locked on Kayla. Kayla didn't move. "I'm not a threat," she said. "Not unless I'm forced to be." The woman approached slowly. "We lost people to those vials, family, friends. You expect us to welcome what they made?" Ethan stepped forward. She wasn't made to destroy. They gave her that role. She chose to stop it. We all did. There was a long pause. Then the leader lowered her weapon. "We'll watch her. But for now, you've done more than any of U.S. could. You brought the war to light. You gave the galaxy a choice." She turned and motioned to the hall. "Come, there's more we need to show you. And more you need to understand before the real storm begins." Ethan exchanged a glance. With Valari and Kayla, the war wasn't over. It had only changed shape. But now they were no longer running. Now they were leading the charge. Together, not by design, but by decision. The truth was free, and so were they. What came next would decide the future of every world touched by the Serum's shadow. Asterisk, the resistance leaders led Ethan, Kayla, and Valari deeper into the archive. The walls became darker, older, carved with symbols from wars long forgotten. Every step echoed with quiet meaning. They reached a chamber filled with monitors and data feeds from across the galaxy. Dozens of faces appeared on the screens, leaders from worlds untouched by the Council's reach. "This is our broadcast node," said the red-skinned leader. "We intercept signals, watch the flow of propaganda, and record the truth. Your upload wasn't just received, it was believed." Ethan watched as transmissions lit up each display. On one screen, a Varellan governor resigned. On another, a human general called for an emergency summit. The truth had already started a fire no one could put out. Kayla stepped toward a monitor, showing an alien city square where people gathered in silence, watching the footage of the serum experiments. Some wept, some shouted, some simply stared. "They didn't know," she said. "They didn't want this." Valari nodded. "That's the point of secrets. They control people without chains." But once the truth breaks free, no one goes back to sleep. The resistance leader handed Ethan a small device. This is a beacon. If you activate it, every ship tied to the Council's black projects will be tagged. Their location, their cargo, everything. Ethan turned the device in his hand. And what happens then? She looked him in the eyes. That depends on you. Do you want justice or war? He didn't answer right away. The weight of what he carried had grown beyond revenge. The Council had used him, made Kayla, silenced others like Valari, and erased countless lives in the name of progress. But war would only make new shadows. We show them the light, he said. We expose them all, not with bombs. With proof. Kayla touched his shoulder. And what happens to us? We're still the proof they fear most. Valari spoke calmly. Then we stay hidden until the world is ready. You two weren't made to lead armies. You were made to survive the worst and still choose peace. Ethan nodded. Then that's what we'll do. We'll live. And we'll make sure no one forgets. They returned to the ship in silence. The stars outside shimmered with promise. The Resistance had offered them shelter, names of allies, safe worlds untouched by politics. Kayla programmed the course to a neutral moon where no records existed. She sat in the pilot's seat, Ethan beside her, Valari watching from the back. Where to now? She asked. Ethan smiled faintly. Someplace quiet. Someplace honest. The engines came alive. As they lifted off, the stars shifted in the view ahead. The ship carried no weapons, only truth, only memory. And the future now depended on what others chose to do with both. The war was no longer hidden. The silence was broken, back inside. The archive, the red-skinned leader watched their departure on the monitor. One of her officers asked, "You trust them?" She nodded. They had every reason to fight with hate. But they chose something harder. They chose mercy. That makes them stronger than the ones who built them. The officer saluted silently as the signal faded. Far from any known trade routes, the small vessel entered the quiet space between systems. Ethan looked out the window as a planet with green oceans and silver clouds appeared on the edge of the display. Looks peaceful, he said. Kayla adjusted the controls. Let's make it home. For now. Valari smiled, the tension finally fading from her face. They landed near a silent valley surrounded by cliffs and glowing trees. No cities, no weapons, just space to breathe. Kayla stepped out and felt the ground under her bare feet. I've never walked on a world that wasn't built for war, she said. Now you have, Ethan replied. And now it belongs to you too. That night, they sat around a small fire beside the ship. The stars above stretched across the sky like a map of everything they had escaped. Kayla leaned her head against Ethan's shoulder. Valari spoke softly. They'll come searching eventually. Ethan nodded. Then we'll be ready. And if they don't, even better. In the firelight, Kayla closed her eyes. For the first time, her breath was steady. Not programmed. Not ordered, just hers. Ethan looked at her, then at Valari, then at the fire. He had been changed in ways he could never undo, but for the first time, he didn't feel lost. He felt found.